Hello, this is Courtney, and this is my channel on intentional living. I am a yoga therapist by trade, and so I believe that it's all intertwined. So I use a lot of what I've learned in the yoga world about living ethically and living with contentment and practice and discipline, along with what I know about personal finance and what I have lived out. I'm 48 years old. I'm the mother of six. I have four children of my own and two bonus children, and three grandchildren ages 11 to 17. So I not only have seen this play out in my own life, but I've seen these tools and things play out in my adult children's lives. And I want to share with you some tips that have helped me. Now, one thing I always get, and we're going to talk today about what to do when you are financially at rock bottom. And right now I'm struggling watching some family members go through this, and they're doing the best that they know how, but there seems to be some unwillingness to listen or learn. And what I have found with most people is it takes hitting rock bottom to make changes, because it's so hard. And it's so hard. It's not really hard when you get into it, but it feels hard. It feels overwhelming to change when you're in a pattern of doing things the same way. And the truth is, it's not really that hard, and it's very empowering, but you've got to get your mindset over worrying about how hard it's going to be. So let's say that you find yourself at rock bottom like I did in my 20s. I had gotten out of high school and gone to work, and I made really good money. I had been a hair model for a long time. I know it's hard to imagine now when I'm in my absolute weekend worst outfit here with my hair up in a bun and my sweats on. But I had been a hair model. That led me to get a really good job in the industry. As an outside salesperson, I called on businesses, and I was making really good money in my 20s for the 80s. I was making about $24,000 to $28,000 a year, which doesn't sound like a lot by today's standards, but it was equivalent to about $30,000 a year in a very short period of time. And I was living the normal American lifestyle. I didn't have a lot of debt, but I had a credit card that I felt it was necessary to have the right makeup, the right car. I had a car payment, the right makeup, the right car, the right clothes, because my job was going out and selling, and I needed to look the part because I had to call on people in the beauty industry. And I had a car accident. All in the span of a couple of weeks. My bosses got divorced, and they had to close their business in the divorce. I had a car wreck. I was at a stoplight, and someone rear-ended me going 70 miles an hour. It was in Houston, Texas, where the roads were like 7 lanes across. There were 3 and 3, and then a turning lane. And this guy him and his daughter were coming from a funeral, and he was super distressed. And he didn't realize he was in the wrong lane when he hit me. So he totaled my car. I was only 18 years old at the time, and I didn't know anything about dealing with insurance or lawyers. I didn't have good guidance from my family, and they fixed my totaled car. They straightened the frame out, and it was never the same. I had back problems. I couldn't work, and I moved back home. I had a really terrible year. I did have to work because I had no way to eat. So I found some side work working at a window company, answering the phones for cash, because that's the only way. I probably didn't make enough money that it would have mattered, but I made enough to survive. And I ended up a year later getting pregnant. And so that pregnancy ended in a stillborn birth, and that gave me tons of medical bills. My settlement for my car accident got settled. I was able to go back to work. I lost that baby, and I did for a while, but I was so in debt that I had to file bankruptcy. Now, fast forward about 10 years, I went back to college. I was working at the School for the Disabled. Had gotten married, got pregnant again, and I spent much of my 20s on Medicaid, with having 3 children, on women, infants, and children. And I know, you think, well, you made some bad decisions. At that time, I was doing what I knew, right? I was doing the best I knew how, because I hadn't known or been taught any different. And so I had 3 children. I was in college until I was 29 years old with babies. My husband was working but struggling to find work, and he went back to college at 27, my ex-husband now, and we just struggled. I mean, we weren't making more than $17,000 a year. My grandparents passed away and left me a little bit of money, which replaced my income at the school for the disabled, and I managed. I was so determined, because now I had a little baby, that I would not be wasteful with what they had left me. And so I had not been told so much, but I had seen my grandmother taught me how to balance a checkbook, and my stepmother taught me how to budget. So I had been doing that, especially after I filed bankruptcy, but I knew what it was like to be at rock bottom. And I was at rock bottom for a long time. And until I was 40, I never really felt like we got super ahead. We got out of the whole poverty thing, but we ended up adopting and making a slew of bad decisions. My ex-husband had a spending problem and some other issues, and it was just hard. And now at 48, I've been debt-free for a long, long time. And I want to share with you what I have done and what I have learned. So I know that's a lot of explanation, but I want you to know that I get what it's like to be at rock bottom. The first thing you have to do, let's say right now you have no job and no money, is you have to make a plan. When you have a sense of control over your life, you're going to feel so much better. So you have to make a plan to take control. That plan may be, I'm going to apply for 5 jobs a day, every single day. And I'm going to, nowadays you have to do it over the computer. I'm going to do a combination of, I'm going to apply for whatever 5 times 7, 35 jobs this week. And I will do as many as I can on the computer, and I will go out and look for jobs face to face as well, because that can be, I'll call some friends. You're going to make a plan. I'm going to call my friends. I'm going to call my family members, old coworkers, anybody you know, but you're going to apply for a certain amount of jobs every day. Beyond that, after you've done that, then you want to figure out how you can do some temporary work. So what I did was I cleaned houses. I kept other people's children. I would go and run errands for people. I would dog and cat sit. I would check their mail, water their plants. But there was no social media back then, so it meant me making a flyer for free and posting it up everywhere. You do what you have to do. You start getting resourceful and creative. What can I do to make some extra money? Do you have a skill that you could do something in the meantime? But you've got to get money now. So that is what I would call temporary work. There are also temporary agencies that you can go to that have temporary work. So I would do that right away. Usually you don't pay, the employer pays to do that. So you want to do that right away. I'm going to bring this up. It's a touchy subject for some people, but if you cannot get a job because you cannot pass a drug test because you're smoking pot, you need to quit. Because number one, you don't have the money. And I hear this a lot, and I know this is an issue for a lot of people. It's not a necessity, it's a non-essential, and it's become so normalized in our society and so acceptable that a lot of people don't see a problem with it. But the truth is, most of the good jobs, or a lot of jobs, you're going to have to take a drug test. And if you can't pass a drug test, you're screwed. And I don't know a better way to say it. So after you've done those things, you've got to get a budget. And if you're not sure how to do a budget, don't overthink it right now. Write down all your bills: food, shelter, clothing, gas, groceries, any kind of debt you have. You're going to go down to the essentials only. Now, that is shelter and food and your utilities. That is not internet. And I know you may be saying, Courtney, well, what about internet? Because I have to have internet to apply for jobs. If you can afford it, that's fine. But if you can't, you might have to cut the internet for a while and go to use the library internet and go use free internet someplace else. So any kind of consumer debt, you're going to stop paying. And I know that's scary, or pay the minimum. So if you have a car payment, if you have a credit card, if you owe somebody money, you're going to stop paying them and let them know the deal. Call them and tell them, but you're going to pay just for food and shelter. You probably have enough clothes to get by. So you have to get down to the essentials. A lot of what people say are essential are not essential. Now, and I mean needs versus wants. Having anything beyond food and shelter is probably not essential, and your utilities. If you say, well, I have to pay my car payment, so I have a car. Yes. Can you sell your car and get something cheaper? But today, you're going to make a budget. A lot of people will say, well, there's no money left for me to have a budget. It doesn't matter. Even if the budget is in the negative, you have to know how negative you are. So at one point in our life, I was $1,400 a month negative in our budget. I was using credit cards to buy groceries. We were racking up credit card debt because we didn't have enough money to buy food. And we were house poor, let me tell you. I had to know where we were so I could go out and get another job, a second job, with 4 children at home in order to go. I had 3 at that time, in order to figure out how much money we needed. My ex-husband took on side work fixing people's computers at home, and I went to work at a health food store in addition to my other job teaching yoga. So you have to figure out how much money you need over your bills to get by. So a budget, even though it might be in the negative, you still have to write down everything you need and how much money you have. All right. Things that we'll do in the meantime to help you after you have worked and done temp work, done your budget, you've applied for jobs every day, you need to try to think about your environment. And you want to go ahead and do things that keep you busy, that are productive, that make you feel in control. Clean your house. While you're cleaning your house, organize your stuff and wash and fold your clothes, iron them if you need to, get them presentable for job interviews so you have something to wear. You're going to get everything clean. You're going to go around. You're going to turn off anything that doesn't need to be on. You might even turn your temperature down and put on some more clothes if it's cold outside, and vice versa if it's hot. You're going to clean your car. You want to drive up in the cleanest possible vehicle you can have. Even if you have an old beater car, make it look nice. The other thing you want to do is, so you're going to get your environment clean, right? Let me just repeat this. House, car, yard, clean it up, gather up everything you can, and start selling that stuff. Sell it on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, garage sale, whatever you need to do to get money to get by. This is just about getting started. And once you get a job and get things settled, and you need to stay on this path and build your emergency fund so this doesn't happen again. And I would argue that $1,000 isn't a month, but it's enough. But $500 is a good start. But you're going to need to build up at least 1 month emergency fund. So if this happens again, you can pay your bills. I hope this has been helpful. I don't mean for it to sound bitchy, but I know, and forgive me for using that word, I never cuss, but not at least publicly. But I hope that this is helpful to you. Take care, thumbs up, and subscribe if you like this video.